I am a 44-year-old man who was raised by a single mother in crushing poverty until I was 13 years old. My early years were filled with hardship and uncertainty. My mother did everything she could to provide for me, but we struggled to make ends meet. Life was a constant battle against hunger and insecurity. When I turned 13, everything changed. My mother met and eventually married a wonderful man who would become not just a stepfather but a true dad to me. He legally adopted me, and his family embraced me as one of their own. It was as if I had won the lottery of adoptive families. They provided me with love, stability, and opportunities I could have only dreamed of before. My life took a complete turn for the better. As far as I knew, my dad's family was small. It was just his nephew and me as the only children in the family. I never heard about any other siblings or relatives my age. Dad was a private man, and while he was open and loving, he didn't often speak about his past. I never questioned it. I was just grateful for the family I had. Years later, as I grew older, I began to uncover more details about my dad's past. I discovered that he had been married before and had a daughter named Ashley, who is now in her early 50s. The story was complicated and filled with heartache. When Ashley was 14, her mother filed for divorce from my dad and moved in with her affair partner. It was a devastating blow to my dad. To make matters worse, Ashley's mother confessed that she had been unfaithful throughout their entire relationship, and that my dad was not Ashley's biological father. The affair partner, with whom she had been involved for years, had been married during their entire affair. When his wife passed away, he wanted Ashley and her mother to move in with him. Back in those days, DNA testing was expensive and not commonly used for paternity disputes. However, blood type testing was accessible, and through that, my dad was excluded as Ashley's biological father. Ashley's mother had known since shortly after Ashley's birth that my dad was not her biological father due to their incompatible blood types. Ashley and her mother moved in with the affair partner and his children, settling into the home he had previously shared with his late wife. They requested that my dad neither pay child support nor seek visitation rights. By then, Ashley was 15 or 16 years old. She wrote my dad a heartfelt letter asking him to leave her alone so she could build relationships with her biological family. Heartbroken but respectful of her wishes, my dad honored her request. As far as I know, they never reconnected as father and daughter after that. They never spoke again. Ashley's mother wanted a quick divorce and property settlement. In the end, my dad kept the house and its contents, while Ashley's mother received a cash settlement. Life moved on, and my dad eventually met my mother, bringing me into his life. I barely knew Ashley existed until my dad passed away. His death was a profound loss for me. While handling his estate, I discovered that his will specifically mentioned Ashley. He denied her as his biological child. I am fairly certain he was never removed from her birth certificate and expressly stated that she was to receive nothing from his estate. When Ashley was notified of her disinheritance, she reached out to me. Initially, she was pleasant and cordial. She explained that there were certain heirlooms that had belonged to her mother, which were left behind during the divorce. She asked if she could have them. I was not necessarily opposed to the idea and kindly asked her to provide me with a list of the items she was interested in. However, she never sent a list. Instead, she insisted on coming over to look around and find the items herself. I felt uncomfortable with this arrangement and declined her request. Over the past 5 years, Ashley's behavior has become increasingly aggressive and volatile. I learned that the affair partner, whom she believed was her biological father, was not her father either. His family, who had some wealth, paid for DNA testing in the early 1990s after Ashley had become an adult. His parents and grandparents refused to pay for her college education or include her as a grandchild in their wills without proof of biological relation. The DNA test confirmed that she was not biologically related to him. As a result, Ashley was not included in the affair partner's will because she was not his biological child. She was left without any inheritance or familial connection. Her mother, until her dying breath, swore that the affair partner was Ashley's father and that the DNA test was wrong. Ashley was left in a state of confusion and betrayal, having no idea who her real father was. Her anger and frustration began to spill over into my life. She would leave me alone for stretches of time, but then suddenly, she would start showing up at my home and workplace. She would rant and rave about how I had stolen her life, her inheritance, and her childhood home. She referred to me bitterly as the replacement. Her visits became more frequent and more aggressive. Eventually, I had no choice but to involve the police. Over time, she was charged 10 times with trespassing and disturbing the peace. Her harassment escalated to property damage, and I finally had sufficient grounds to obtain a restraining order against her. She violated the restraining order multiple times and was charged with misdemeanor violations on several occasions. The last violation was severe enough that the authorities charged her with a felony. Now, Ashley is worried that a felony conviction could impact her job and her future. She has reached out to me, pleading for me to drop the charges. She insists that she is a victim of circumstance, that life has been unfair to her, and that she acted out of pain and desperation. I find myself in a moral dilemma. Part of me empathizes with her tragic situation. She has been lied to her entire life, denied the truth about her biological father, and stripped of any sense of belonging. However, her actions have caused me significant distress and fear for my safety. I have given her multiple chances to stop her harassment, but she has continued to violate my boundaries and the law. Am I the bad person for refusing to drop the charges against her? Should I show her leniency because of her troubled past? Or is it justified to let the legal system handle the consequences of her actions?